Hello, my name is Anna Miller. I'm the Associate Pastor here at First United Methodist Church in Albany, and I am so glad you're joining me as we look at Robert Morgan's book, The Red Sea Rules. And today we are on rule number 5, which is to stay calm and confident and give God time to work. Now, I wonder, have you ever had the patience to sit and see a full sunset? I can get a little impatient and I'll go out to watch a sunset for a minute. I'll plan for it. But then after a few minutes, I come back inside. Now, I might venture out again to see if it's setting. But I have to admit, too many times I have missed the sun going down because I was not patient enough to stay out there and wait. And by the time I get back outside, it's too late. It had already set. And so today, I want to take us on a little journey. I take you not to the Red Sea, but to the highest point on the Gulf Coast located in Walton County, Florida, just southwest of us in an area called the Northern Florida Highlands. Now, this area is Blue Mountain Beach. It's called Blue Mountain because of the blue lupine flowers that once covered the coastline. And it's called Mountain because it's the highest point on the Gulf coastline of Florida. Now we have to the north of us Point Washington State Forest and a beautiful sunset in the making. If we are patient enough to stand still for a few minutes and watch the sky transform, we will actually see it set. Now to our south, we see the Gulf Coast in the background. Now, minus all the trees and the houses and surely an army pursuing us, we are right where the Israelites would have been standing before an impassable sea. I stand at the top landing of a tower in the heart of Blue Mountain, and there is truly calm. I've spent a few minutes in prayer and praise for the beauty of God's creation and the tranquility of the moment. And in this still moment, I am just a little closer to God, separated from a world of busyness and stress and even craziness down below. I wouldn't want to travel too far from here, though, without God with me. I definitely would not want to venture into the forest behind us, especially at night without a flashlight or some sort of protection because of the snakes and bears even, which are often seen in this area, in particular being close to the state forest, but especially in the fall, as the bears are now foraging through trash cans to eat whatever they can in preparation for hibernation. Now, maybe like this one, who spent about 30 minutes eating leftover bacon grease, if I remember correctly. You see, danger abounds in many ways, but we are not to panic. We are to stand still and stay calm. Okay, back to our lesson. Got a little sidetracked there with the bear. Our scripture today, our scripture selection is Exodus 14, 13 and 14. Now stick with me and we'll see how our sunset is progressing in just a minute. But listen to these words of Moses in Exodus. Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and see the deliverance that the Lord will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to keep still." You see, danger abounds in many ways, but we are not to panic. We are to stand still and stay calm. Now, some translations say that we are to stand firm or to stand by. And this is the wisdom and the confidence of Moses, who believed God and trusted him for the deliverance of the Israelites. From the very beginning of Moses' life, starting at the beginning of Exodus, if you want to go back, Moses, the scene was set in Exodus 1, and then in Exodus 2, Moses is born, and you see his life up until this point in chapter 14. And we see the work of God's hand all the way from his birth to Moses' call in the wilderness to actually lead the Israelites out of bondage. We see God protecting his people from the 10 plagues in Egypt, and finally how God released them from the hand of Pharaoh. But they were not in the promised land of Canaan yet. The Pharaoh's army is behind them on one side, and they have this Red Sea in front of them. They have yet to get to the land flowing of milk and honey that God had promised them. So this couldn't be the end of the Israelites just yet. And they were panicking. They were afraid, we learned last week. But Moses was confident in God's promise, so he has to remind the Israelites who were afraid and panicking and complaining. He tells them to stay calm. Do not be afraid. The deliverance of the Lord was at hand, and it would be accomplished for them that day. Moses was calm. The Israelites were not. But listen to their backsliding in faith, if you will. As I read verses 10 and 11, I'm going to back up just a few verses so that you can hear what they were saying. The Israelites, they said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us, bringing us out of Egypt? Is this not the very thing we told you in Egypt? Let us alone and let us serve the Egyptians, for it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." And so they are frustrated. They are complaining. All they see is this impassable sea and Pharaoh's army right there on their heels. But Moses reminds them, "Do not be afraid. Stand still and let God fight for you." You see, we have to give God time and space to do his work. And we have to be patient as he does that. Now, we know patience to be a Christ-like virtue. It is a fruit of the Spirit. And we have to take a few moments to just stand still and let God do his work. You know, I've been teaching our new Safe Sanctuaries policy to our servant leaders in the many areas here in the church over the last few months. And one thing that I've shared, that if in the circumstance we need to use the timeout system in our children's area, it does happen. Children are not perfect in church just because they walk through the front doors. But one thing that we do is we enact a timeout system. But timeout should only be as long as the child's age. So a 3-year-old should be in timeout no longer than 3 minutes. The length of time is dependent on their age because that's roughly what their attention span is. But I wonder, maybe as adults, we might need to initiate the timeout practice again in our lives. When we have a big decision to make, when we find ourselves in a difficult situation, maybe we take a time out with God, the length of time as is our age. Seems reasonable, right? You see, as Moses said, stand still. We have to take a time out with God to pray, to focus on our spiritual disciplines, that we get quiet, that we watch and wait for God's intervention, and that we allow him in his grace and power to fight for us. And then we wait and watch for him to reveal what his will is for us to do. You see, he may deliver us. He may change our perspective of the dilemma that we're in. Who knows? He may change the heart of the one pursuing us with ill intentions. I'm reminded in Psalm 37, 7 and 8, King David said, "Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret, for it only causes harm." Wait patiently, be still. Do not fret. You know, our new Bishop David Graves reminded us in a clergy meeting a couple of weeks ago, something that we know well is that sheep will only drink from the still waters. It is the Lord who leads us beside the still waters. He knows where it is safe to pass. And when we need to come to him in our time of distress, he will calm the waters that we might drink from him and that we would have calmness in our heart and we would not be anxious and we would not be fearful. But I wonder, have we learned to do this? Maybe yes, but what about first? Before we have panicked, before we have fretted, before we have tried to figure out all the ways that we can solve our problem or our dilemma, do we go to God first and call out to him? David says, fret and worry can only cause harm. We just need to rest for a moment and let God fight for us. Let God do his work that only he can do. A quote from one of my favorite theologians, Matthew Henry, says this: "In times of great difficulty and great expectation, it is our wisdom to keep our spirits calm, quiet, and sedate, for then we are in the best frame both to do our work and to consider the work of God." You see, this is spiritual maturity. To exhibit the fruits of the Spirit, to exhibit patience and self-control, faithfulness, peace, not panic or fret. Part of staying calm is not to fret. So Moses says, "Do not be afraid, stand still." And then he goes on to say this. He says, "See the salvation of Lord, which he will do for you today." Now here is his promise. God promises to bring us salvation today. For the Egyptians, Moses said, "Look, the Egyptians whom you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." And God will do the same for us. He will fight for us because the battle with the enemy is not ours, is it? We know that the battle is the Lord's, and God is greater than the enemy. God has a plan for us that is greater than whatever the pesky disturbance is before us. So we keep our eyes on him and we call out to him, and he will make a way. Now, how is our sunset progressing? I'm pretty confident that we are going to see if we have a little patience. I have faith. Given enough time, we will see it set. I also have enough faith to know that whatever difficult situation you are in, God will open a way for you that you might also have peace as you place your faith in him, as you stand still and call out to him. Have a little time out with God. You know, before God's people were called Christians or even Jews or Hebrews or children of Israel, they were originally referred to as those who call on the name of the Lord. This is what a godly person is. Those who believe in him, that he is faithful, and those who call upon him and stand still long enough for him to respond. For we are promised that he will fight for us. We need only to watch and to wait. For this day is the day of our salvation. God is faithful to us. When we wait on him, it is a beautiful thing. And we see a beautiful sunset before us. Stay calm and confident. Do not be afraid. I hope you have a great week. and we'll see you next time.